Hello, we are live again to my fantastic Learn and Grow Snappy chat. This is all about learning and growing together in business, and I'm super excited to be here. I'm Kristine Bell, and this is not about me today. This is all about learning and growing together as small businesses. Because guess what? Most of us go through the same challenges and get really, really lonely. So, building a fantastic network of people that you can really learn from and grow with is for me been a saving grace basically in my business. So I highly recommend that you do this too. So with no further ado, I've got an amazing guest here today. His name is Evan. He's from Australia. He's Australian born and bred. He's a veteran. He's amazing at building his own business. He's super successful. He's all about technology and automating your business, which is completely something I need because this is not my strength. So with no further ado, let's bring on Evan. How are you, my friend? How are you going?
Hello, I'm good. That was snappy indeed.
It's all about Snappy here. No one likes to spend too long on YouTube or anywhere else. So it's always about getting our message across quickly and succinctly and hopefully with a bit of passion and engagement. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll do my best.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself, please, and what you do in business.
So I'm a business automation specialist, and my unfair advantage is helping people to adopt the software solutions in their business. So getting people to use the systems that will allow them to have relationships at scale. So whilst everybody's talking AI and trying to imagine it to be like some magical button that you push and everything just goes amazing, I try to bring a little bit more reality back to the world, and that you have some timeless things that you need to do, which is find out more about your customer, find out the right time to reach out to them, and then actually act on it. So anyway, we just use tech to do that.
Yeah, and I love that. And you also do a lot internally in terms of the operations to really make everything work smoothly, efficiently, and streamlining everything, don't you? So, which
Hmm.
is really useful in business.
Well, it's a process that kind of evolves over time, so no business like today and tomorrow and the next day is going to be slightly different. And if you can, one, you need to keep up with the shifts in the market for how people are being served or delivered the product or the service. And in order to stay competitive, you've got to keep up with that, do better, go faster. If you just sit and did the same thing for like forever, you'd be irrelevant very quickly.
So true. And you know what? Before we get into the challenge that you faced in business, the one thing I think a lot of small business owners face in business is this challenge, and I'm included. We end up, and I think that there's a framework that I talk to in terms of this. But basically, when we start a business, we can end up becoming, self-employed in the way, unless I'm working, I'm not making money. And that is no way to scale a business because it relies fully on me being healthy and able to do the work. Yeah. And you can only do so many hours in a day. We only have so many hours. And I think a
Mm,
lot of small business get caught in being that one man band, especially if we don't necessarily want to build a big team, but we do want to scale. Yeah.
mm,
And for me personally, it's like, okay, how can I do this? How can I actually scale a business and take me out of it when I am the actual IP in it as well? So that's
mm,
been for me a big challenge. And it's definitely it's because you want to move from being a one man band that is relying on you 24/7 to actually building a business, whether it's through a passive income, which is where
mm.
I'm moving towards, or whether it's through other ways of building a full on team. So I love that you're all about this, and I love that you've done it successfully for yourself. So I can't wait to talk to you about the challenges that you face and how you overcome them, because I think we can all learn a lot from you.
Oh, well, I'm honored. Thank you. Well, just on that, like you mentioned, I had a thought while you were speaking then about when you're a business owner, you know that you go, all right, well, I know what I'm doing. I can just jump in and get it done. Um, but that doesn't help anybody other than you in that moment. And you feel good because you're able to knock it out in 5 seconds because it's so natural to you. I think what you need to do is develop the discipline to do it in a system or a process that can be picked up by somebody else. So I think the moment that you start to just jump in and do it is the moment that you have failed from being able to delegate or to be able to hand that task off to somebody else. Because unless it's documented, it's always going to be in your head, and it's always going to be something that is impossible for the next person to come and extract from you to then go and do the work.
100%. And you're so spot on with that one, and I think it's a trap that a lot of us get stuck in, yeah, because I can just do it and I don't have to learn something new because it would require me to go and have to learn a different way of working, yeah. And we're all, a lot of us human beings like to stick to our habits and our patterns, yeah. I'm just gonna say hello quickly. Tommy's here, thank you for being here. Claudia, I'd love to see you here. Jason is here as well. Tommy, Dr. New, thank you everyone for being here, appreciate it. So back to you. So tell me a little bit more about the challenges you faced as well.
Well, like kind of the same problem where if you're constantly doing the work, I mean, early on you're a bit scrappy. You've got to figure out what the hell you're doing, and you need enough evidence points to go, there's a trend here. So sometimes you got to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that. And I think a lot of times, if you can just kind of get to that point of failure faster, then you know what doesn't work. Then you can find the bits that do work and then narrow down on it, particularly after you've had a lot of evidence or data points to tell you that this is the thing that you should be doing and why. And once you've been able to do that enough times, you can start to formalize, well, there's a process and a structure. I think sometimes people come at life like it's a blank canvas, and it can feel very much like that if it's the first time you're doing something. But after you can identify a trend or a pattern, then you can do that thing. So, and we've definitely gone and chased every rainbow and tried to do every little thing. And then after a while, you start to notice, not only that either you can do it because it's in demand, but maybe that's not profitable, or maybe there's a lot of work that's involved. And then after a while, you'll find other things that maybe a little bit harder to obtain, but are very much worthwhile. And so maybe you should be going not after the easy wins, but after the big ones that are a little bit more sort of transformational for you and for the client. I'm talking in my context, but it's only by getting it wrong do you learn how to get it right. So the faster you can get it wrong to then get it right is better. And then once you've got more data points, and I know I'm kind of talking very much in generalities here, once you get enough data points, then you can go, there's a structure and there's a system and there's a process. And then you just go and refine until you have like a smooth oiled machine. That's when you can scale. That's when it's easy to bring other people in, no matter how complex it seems.
And you know what you just touched on, which I think is obviously there's some practicalities around changing habits, but it's often in the mindset, we are so stuck in what we're doing. We feel comfortable in our little space. And we just keep doing that because it kind of works. We know it doesn't, but the actual big change, and what you're telling me here is actually you really got to watch what you're doing and become aware of that, and then start to actually make real actual changes in your behavior, which is the hard part for most people.
Well, sometimes you've got to think 80% has to be good enough if you want to scale. So you need to look at whatever product or service you deliver. If you're the owner that's passionate about it, that you know everything, and that you go and do it, you're going to do these extra little bit pieces here, there, and everywhere, and the client's going to go, wow, that's amazing, but then nobody else can do it. So you need to make the base core service so good enough that 80% is sufficient and or impressive. So even if some things are missed, even if some things are next done, because that person that you've hired that's not you is not going to come at it with the same passion. They're worried about playing cricket on the weekend. They're not worried about growing the bottom line as hard as you are. So their kind of average day has to be awesome for the client, even though it may not be perfect. It's good enough. And then you can do that times 3 staff, 5 staff, 50 staff, and scale it. But otherwise, good enough needs to be good enough. Otherwise, it's not going to, perfect doesn't scale.
That is such a huge learning. I think we kind of know this. We've been told this many times. And yet, if we're stuck in our comfort zone, and we feel safe there, we feel we're doing well, it's that thing of being able to, bungee jump, and be willing to literally fail a few times, or be really scared of doing it, not knowing how to, and do it anyway. I'm teaching innovation at the university at the moment, and the innovation process is human design centered, human-centered design. And it's all about being willing to, one, have empathy and learn the data points, but also be willing to fail. And like you said up front, fail fast, fail quickly, and then change. Don't keep failing or avoiding for a long time. You might as well do it up front, yeah?
Mm, yeah. Well,
And
I
so
think
with that, with sorry, you can say?
I was just going to say, I think in terms of, I like the saying, jump out of the plane and build the parachute on the way to the ground. And I think in terms of doing that, I mean, it makes it sound like we don't necessarily know what we're doing with any client. I mean, there's two angles to think of this. This is when it's more on internal reflection. Whereas when you're dealing with a client, like I said, you know what works, you've built a pattern, and sometimes being able to deliver the client work is scalable because you've removed things from it and brought it back to the bare essentials. Sometimes you could have. I was listening to someone who creates courses the other day, and they thought, yeah, I'm going to create this amazing thing, and I'm going to do like 50 one-to-one calls, and they're going to be 2 hours long, and the customer, you might think, that's what really needs to be done because the client needs that information, and you want to give your 10 years of experience and really embed it. But sometimes they're like, I'm busy doing my everyday. I don't have time to do all of that. I just want to get to the good stuff. So how do you shred back everything that's extra fluff, maybe context that they don't really need, and just get to the thing that's going to get them the result faster, get them the good stuff without taking too much of their time.
And that's such a big learning, especially if you are the IP and you want to share my 25 years of experience, yeah? It's like, well,
Mm,
actually, they don't want that many years of experience. They just want to condense down to exactly what they need, yeah? So they can
mm,
take action right now. I want to touch on something else because it comes back to mindset as well a little bit. So you probably have heard of this divergent thinking versus convergent thinking, yeah? And we
mm.
all seem to probably on a spectrum, but most of us are more divergent or we'll be more convergent in our way of thinking. Divergent is, big ideas, let's look at everything, joy, joy,
Mm.
joy, etc. And convergent is system and solutions and everything. And
Yep.
I've found I'm divergent. You can tell already by the way I'm sitting here, yeah? I'm fully divergent in how I behave, yeah?
Mm.
And how I think. I really need someone like you who is much more, let's get, streamlined, let's get to the solutions, let's actually come to a place where we can build it up. So I think there's something to be said for also understanding ourselves and knowing where our weaknesses are and how we can use other people. Like you, for example, it's a good match, yeah?
You need both. Yeah, I often explain that a good partnership has that creative tension. It's like a dog and a person going for a walk. The person wants to stay on the path, and the dog wants to go everywhere and pull the owner. But by their powers combined, the owner gets dragged a little bit. The dog kind of stays path-ish,
Yeah.
and so together they actually have a better journey than if they would on their own. So I think in terms of, yes, you need that big thinking, you need something disruptive, you need to go to a new kind of thinking, like AI or, just different business models or things that
Yes.
challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
But then within that, you then need to create something that is can be streamlined, that can be refined, that can be improved. Because the big idea, you kind of got to start roughly sloppy in that direction, and then just get more accurate and more accurate and more accurate. Shed the weight and unnecessary materials. It's like every time someone's building a car, if there's a new model of car, the first year is the worst year to buy it because it's wild and crazy and new. The
Yeah.
second year, they've gone, right, let's fix every problem so that we stop getting recalls. That's the best time to buy it. Every year after that, now they're going, right, let's take a bit of metal out of there so we save a kilo. Let's take a bit of wiring out of there so we save some money. And that is then when they start going cheaper and cheaper and cheaper on the thing. Again, that's a perspective specifically for a car, but obviously you don't always just want to shred the quality out of it. I think sometimes you can do both. You can do quality and effectiveness and cost.
But it's such a good point, and I think you just explained the innovation process in very few words really, really well. That's exactly what it's all about in terms of being willing to, you know, fail a bit, create something massive, and learn from it, and then you start changing the small things and start improving it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just reading a comment in here from Claudia about taking the fluff out. So I've got an acronym for you. It's BLUF, bottom line up front. So if I'm going to write an article or write something to someone, I'll say in dot points at the top, this is the main points, and if you want to expand on that, you can look at this and then go and read that that specific thing. So the idea is that we need to, in that creative process, is be efficient. Like disruptive innovation. I've done some studies around innovation as well, and you take 1,000 ideas, and it's got a structured process to it. So anyone who's doing, product design, marketing, or something like that, is they'll take 1,000 ideas, then they'll go look at them all and go, that one's crap, that one's crap, that one's crap. Let's filter down to a smaller list, and then we go, that one's not financially viable, that one's not, that one's not. Don't go to a smaller list again. Then let's do product research and build test prototypes and things like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's even a process to innovation. There's a process to everything. Everything's a
Exactly.
pipeline.
Yeah. And we got to be desirable. It's got to be feasible, and it's got to be viable from a business perspective. Now, from my perspective, I'm not necessarily looking to get a lot of employees. I would definitely like people to work with me, other business owners that I can hire in. But that's just because I'm passionate. That's my passion for supporting small business owners, because it's so important for me to have my freedom. I want others to have it too. Now, for me, this is also when I started my offer for small business owners, I had no clue what to offer. I knew they couldn't afford the 40,000 plus the big businesses pay for me. So I'm like, what can I offer? And guess what? I just started doing free classes in Sydney, and I just started presenting stuff with no offer. And I just went, what do you think? And then just by talking to people, I started figuring out what they actually paid attention to, where they go, oh, that fits with my business. This is what I'm struggling with. And that's how I created the offer completely out of nothing. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm doing a one-man band job that doesn't work necessarily. How do I scale?
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to do that
Community.
micro.
Pardon?
Sorry, there's an internet delay. You've got to do that micro testing. So throw spaghetti at the wall and see what fits. There's a fish farm in the Northern Territory, and I was listening to the guy speak, and they had these ponds, and the first thing they do is when they make a new pond, they got to test the water, and then I think he tested the water, but then there's still some other things like, will the fish survive in there? Because, is there enough oxygen? Is there enough, the right kind of minerals and nutrients and stuff? So anyway, he put a truckload of fish, about 5,000 fish or something like that, and they all went belly up and died. So his lesson from that was it only takes one fish. So that was basically $100,000 loss, that was unnecessary to lose that much. You can try with a very, very small basic version. You don't write War and Peace on day one. Get the dot point framework, ask a few people, and if they like it, then start filling in the words and the chapters and so on.
And you know what I'm learning from you, and that at the moment also from university, is I'm creating a community, a strategy on the go community, because I
Mm,
realized with Australia at the moment economically,
mm,
there's some concerns around spending money, and most of my offers were, do it with you, one-on-one, more expensive,
mm,
yeah. And it's like, okay, how can I actually bring in more people, still give them the value they want, have a piece of me in terms of interaction,
mm.
live interactions, and still, be able to help them in business. So that for me is the one way to start pushing together a passive income. And to your point, I've started selling it. I've actually already sold some of it, got some people to sign up. I haven't not
Excellent.
created yet. I haven't even signed up for the platform yet. So I haven't even started
Well,
building the platform. I'm just gonna go. I put out a date, and I'm just gonna work a way to get there. Yeah, and it will be a little bit like you said, not 100%, but I'm gonna get there. Yeah,
well,
somehow.
the market shifts. Like this is where, like I said at the start, is if you sit there doing the same thing today, in a few years' time you're going to become irrelevant. So now people are used to going to Netflix. They're used to going to, these like pay on demand models, or like that one to many approach, or that self service approach. Like Tesla hadn't even finished designing or building the car, got like $1 billion in pre-sales because everybody paid $1,000 or $100. I can't remember the exact numbers,
Yeah.
but like people sell online courses that way. People sell, wait lists. That preemptive demand is one of the best things that you can do, because one, you can use it to fund the project. Two, what whether or not people are going to buy it. And I think there is a platform called Kickstarter, and it's where people go and crowdfund to build a particular product. And so they ask the audience, would you like this, and contribute or pre-buy, or donate $1 or get a postcard or something, and and then that generates the product. But that becomes such a great way for even commercial product designers to test and validate whether a product was going to launch, that they pretty much marauded that market and destroyed the platform, because every other day there was another backpack. It seemed like there's like a billion backpacks on this platform that were trying to be launched, and it was like, this is the best backpack you've ever seen. And after a while, you just got sick of it and you left. Early on, it was great. You had like, there was a some kind of cooler that that had a blender on it. It was like supposed to be it was called the coolest. They actually went bust for a number of reasons, and that was mostly due to manufacturing problems in China,
Yeah.
and industrial disputes. But it would have been a very good product, and they had the potential for some guy in his shed to build this thing to go global. But now it's been taken over by massive corporates that won't put in the upfront investment. They'll get Kickstarter to pay them
Oh.
to do it. But to my point, broadly, is about understanding that the process is different and that you need to evolve with it. So definitely, you've done that. You've tested it.
You just got to keep evolving and trying things and being a bit uncomfortable, I think. And then comes the point is, if I can build it, hold on. I've got to have an issue because I'm a one-man band. I need something in terms of systems behind me, in terms of the operational systems, and I guess the CIM, and really utilizing that so I don't end up, ideally I'd like more than 100 members at some point, or thousands even. That would be awesome. But I can't sit and write emails to every single one of them. I can't, make sure everything works easily and everything gets out to them on time. Yeah. So this is where we need operations and systems in place too. Yeah.
Well, I think we can only really keep about 100 conversations in our head at any one time, and things start to drop off and fade out, and you forget things. And sometimes, like we've gone and followed up with people weeks and months later, and they're like, "Oh yeah, totally forgot. I'm ready now." Like, because at the time it was the wrong timing. But by just being able to write something down and come back to it later, or have a system, and again, it comes down to that discipline. Yes, you can have the software, but if you're not using it, you may as well. It can't even really be a paperweight. It's not even good enough for that because it's in ones and zeros in the cloud. So it's just a cost if you're not actually putting the information in. So if you have the discipline, you have a conversation, you open it up, you write a couple quick notes. Ideally, like I go and have meetings, and in the car I've got an app and I can pull it up and I can write something. And normally when I'm having 100 conversations, my team can pick it up, and I don't have to spend half an hour per client back briefing them on it.
Yeah.
So even if
Smarter
it's
and
just
faster.
exactly scalable, yeah.
Scalable, exactly. Now, before we finish up, I want to touch on something because you mentioned discipline a couple of times. And I know you're veterans. I know you come from the intelligence background, which I love because that, it's amazing background to have. What have you learned about discipline? What has the military taught you about discipline? Maybe you already had it. You might have already had it. Some people are great discipline, but I imagine the military is pretty good at teaching discipline.
Yeah, and
Or maybe
I
not.
think, well, sometimes there's some traditions there, or maybe things are done because they've always been done that way, not necessarily good. I think discipline is just doing something repeatedly. So, like one example is for 10 minutes every day, I'll do some language learning. So, I've been learning a language on Duolingo, and I do it 10 minutes every day just before I go to bed without fail. And so,
Oh,
I've done that for 1,609 consecutive days. So,
the fact
that's
that you even
all.
know how many days you've done it for, and that's amazing. That's discipline.
It's gamified. It's got a little thing that pops up. But for 10 minutes every day, I did 1,000 days of French. Then then I switched. I played around in a couple of other languages, but now I'm doing Hindi because we got the Indian office. So I want to be able to talk with them,
Sweet.
or I can hear it, I can read it, I'm not fluent yet, but that's the goal one day. So
Wow. And
um,
how's it going? Can you say a few words? Do you understand them when you're over there? Are you picking it up now?
Yeah, I can listen to a conversation and know what's going on.
Wow.
I'm a little bit slower on saying things, but the point is discipline, right? You wouldn't get there without doing something a little bit every day. And you don't get a massive skill or a massively awesome at something without the discipline to do it a little bit every day. Like running a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So if you take one step every day, it's going to take you something like 20,000 days to get to. I don't think it's even that. I think it's 2,000 steps or something like that. Anyway, I did the calculation once, but if you know what the end result is, if you knew that you had to do 1,000 sit-ups in any time frame whatsoever to get six-pack abs, then you know what the goal is. You know I can do 5 or 10 a day, and you know that if I do that every day by X number of days, I'm going to get that result. It's not as cut and dry as that, but you know what I mean. Like it's easy to have a calculation. I know that if I have conversations with people, and if I spend 5 minutes writing notes, that at the end of 6 months, I'm going to have had about 1,000 conversations. And if 1,000 conversations translates to, 10% of that closing and creating business, then maybe what if I had 2,000 conversations or 3,000 conversations? Or what if I made each conversation 5% better by taking better notes? Or what if I made that even another 5% better by creating a follow-up task to go back to that conversation? So it's a lot of 1% changes, and that's what discipline is. It's not, running 20 kilometers a day. It's not anything like that. It's just a lot of little things on a regular basis.
And it makes it more doable, yeah, because you're breaking it up. It's like you just do it for 10 minutes a day, yeah? But
Yep.
just keep doing it, which makes a lot of sense. Now, we are going to finish up. Is there anything that you feel that the military has taught you in business that we can all learn from? Just as a final question before you share about what you're up to and how people can connect with you. And I just want to say hello to Aaron Gibson. He said, thanks for having me. Well, we're very happy to have you, Aaron.
No worries. So don't hesitate. Don't sit back and wait for things to happen. Take the initiative. Make a plan, formulate it, do a quick assessment, and then go. So just do.
I love that. Just stop talking about it, stop thinking too much about it, and just start taking action, yeah?
That's it.
Love it. So thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. Always goes too fast because I can keep talking, and you're so amazing to talk to. You got so much to share. How can people reach out to you? Obviously through LinkedIn. Is there any other way they can reach out to you? I know you've got a community. You do a lot of stuff on YouTube. So let's talk about that as well, because you give out, besides running your business and how many employees you got here and in India and everywhere, you also do a lot of knowledge sharing on YouTube. And so I don't know, what time do you get up and when do you finish? Or does it just go fast for you? I don't know. You do a lot.
No, I don't work much more than the average person. I just work smarter, not harder. I get up normal time. I did taekwondo with the kids last night. I do put in a lot of effort, but I also have time that I can be in command of, that I can decide whether or not I'm going to work or go and do a personal activity or something like that. So to reach out to me, this is also streaming on YouTube, on my YouTube. So give me a like, a subscribe. Just go to Relevate, search that in the search bar, and then you'll find me. Other than that, I've got an online community, and there's links to it all from there. So that's probably the best place to start. I think the most important thing is scalable human relationships. That's where the
Yeah.
value is.
And I love it. We just show you T-shirt again. It says lift,
Lift, raise,
race,
lighten.
and lighten. So just tell us about it. We've been talking about this. What does it stand for? Lift, race, and lighten. Because it's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to lift your profile, you want to raise your profits and lighten your workload. And you can do that by having effective systems, processes, and discipline.
I love it. Thank you. Any last things you want to share? Otherwise, we're going to finish up. Thank you for everyone who's here. We got Tommy, Aaron, Claudia, Kim was here as well from the UK. Shafiq is here from the UK as well. So international, Dr. Nu. Fantastic. Thank you. Any last minute, any things you want to share? Otherwise, we'll finish up.
No, that was great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I look forward to chatting to you again soon. So take care, everyone. Thank you for